There are few marriages as romantic and endearing as the one between wine and food. That is, if they've been paired well. Otherwise, it could go the way of Brangelina. Well, helping people master this kind of wine knowledge is what Brainscape and today's guest, Carolyn Pifer, aka the American Wine Girl, is all about. She's a blogger, an influencer, and an event organizer with a devastating love of wine, just like me, your host, Thea Beckman, and Brainscape's lead wine writer. So with that said, let's talk to Carolyn about how to taste and pair wine like a pro. All right, so Carolyn, how could it benefit somebody to learn the right way or methodology to tasting a wine?
Yeah, when you learn how to taste wine the right way, it really makes you appreciate it a lot more. So when you're able to know what you're tasting, you can know the difference between varietals, styles, and then where your wine comes from and how it's made. So when you know how to properly taste wine, it's just nice because you can tell the difference between your varietals and the overall structure of your wine, which includes, acidity, dryness, body, and the overall flavors and aromas in wine.
That's great. So yeah, on that subject, walk me through the wine tasting steps. What am I looking for? What am I smelling for? What am I tasting for?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. You want to look, then smell, then taste. So when we're looking, of course, at first you'll be able to tell if it's white, red, rosé, or a bubbly. And then you can also tell the age on just by looking at the color of a wine. So in a red, if it's a bright ruby red, it's probably a younger wine. And if it's a garnet, kind of more orangey red, then it's probably been aged for a few years. So it's really important to look at that. Also viscosity, just by looking at it, you can kind of tell if it's maybe high alcohol, a little sweeter. So definitely don't miss that first step. But then of course the second step, smelling, I think is one of the most important steps because this is where you're really going to determine all of those aromas in the wine. So first, of course, when you smell it, you'll be able to tell right away, is this wine faulty? It doesn't happen all the time, but of course, if you smell it and it's like something's off, it's like a wet cardboard smell, it's probably corked. But like I said, it doesn't happen all the time. So you want to pull out those different aromas. You have primary, secondary, and tertiary aromas. So I always kind of right away just let my mind think, do I have any like fresh fruit or floral aromas in here? Secondary would come from the winemaking, so things like a butter or a toast, cedar, like oaky, yep. And then the third tertiary all comes from the aging of wine. So is it starting to fade more into like dried fruits or honey, forest floor, things like that. So you can really tell a lot by, the type of wine and if it's been aged or how it's been made just on the nose. So definitely smell your wine before, give it a swirl so it can aerate and you get all of those aromas out of the glass. And then of course, the third part is tasting. So right away when I taste a wine, I like to set aside the flavors and save that for the end, but really focus on the structural characteristics of the wine. So right away, swish it around in your mouth and you can tell, okay, is this dry or is there a little bit of sweetness? Is this high acidity? Do I get tannins on this red wine? Is it fuller body? Things like that. And then my second sip I take, I'll start to determine, okay, am I tasting the same things that I smelled? And then after that, after you've taken a couple of sips, you can kind of determine, are the flavors immediately gone? Was it a short finish or are they kind of lingering? Is it a longer finish? So.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And oftentimes you'll smell a wine and it's got this incredible bouquet and the flavors then after that are completely different.
It definitely just depends. So it's kind of fun to compare the nose and the palate.
Yeah. Okay, so that's great. So in professional settings, a lot of people can feel quite vulnerable speaking aloud what they pick up in the wine on the nose or in the palate. And I mean, I definitely relate to this because I've been to a lot of professional tastings hosted by winemakers. And I have been kind of terrified to venture forth my opinion for fear of sounding foolish or for being wrong, which is silly, I know. But what sort of advice would you have for people to help them feel more comfortable sort of speaking up?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely the same way. Like, it's really nerve-wracking, especially when you kind of feel like you don't know what you're talking about. But my best advice that I can give is just go with your gut. Like, if you're smelling a wine and you think that you smell bananas, chances are you're probably right.
Yeah.
And you also might smell something that someone else didn't pick up on, but because you voiced your opinion, they're like, oh, I actually smell that too. So bouncing off each other. That's why it's always so great to taste in a group, because you can help people out. And, you know, even if you do maybe get something wrong that isn't right, at least then you kind of know. And it's all just like a learning experience. So I always recommend tasting with other people, and don't be afraid to voice what you think you smell, because it can be helpful to others as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so fun too, And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, your nose is neither right nor wrong, I mean, whatever you pick up is what you pick up. And so, we need to forget and try and slough off this idea that the wine industry is snobbish and, that we're going to be laughed at or made to feel like a fool if we say something. At the end of the day, your opinion is never wrong. So, be brave.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you also will typically smell things right away that you are more used to smelling, like more often, or things that you maybe eat more often. And your palate and nose can be totally different than someone else's, but you can both be right. So.
Yeah. Great. Well, so moving on to food, I know that you're involved in a lot of food and wine pairing events, which are great for demonstrating how the right wine can really elevate the dining experience. So what are your basic tenets for pairing wine with food for a layperson?
Yes. So one of the most important things when you're pairing wine with food is you want to match your wine with the strongest part of the dish. So if your dish is primarily a meat, or if it's a pasta, so maybe it's more about the sauce that you're cooking with, that's what you really want to focus on pairing your wine with. So you've probably heard the rule that white wine goes with fish and red wine goes with meat. It's only true to like an extent. I mean, it's like a good basic understanding, but it definitely doesn't stop there, because the reason why people say that white goes better with fish or chicken is because those dishes are lighter in body, as a white wine is a little lighter in body. So typically, a full body Cabernet Sauvignon is going to be better with like an aged cheddar or a ribeye steak, because those are both extremely flavorful and powerful. So the food and the wine, they won't overpower one another. Cabernet is also known to have really high acidity. So if you choose something like a fatty steak, the acidity will help cut right through that, and you'll have a perfect finish. So another really important component is sweetness. And this is actually kind of a difficult thing to pair with sometimes, but a really simple rule to follow is pair sweet with sweet. So that way things don't taste bitter. And then another thing that you want to consider is spiciness. So chili and heat, things like that in a dish can be tricky to pair with. Always stay away from high alcohol and really dry wines when you're eating something spicy, because that will amplify that heat, and it wouldn't be very, very satisfying. It'd have some burning. So always, something that's like super flavorful and spicy, I would pair with like an off-dry Riesling, or maybe like an extra dry sparkling. And then that kind of leads me to my last little tip is, when in doubt, serve like a sparkling wine or a champagne, because they go great with everything. Yeah, and it acts as like a natural palate cleanser, so you can't go wrong with that.
Oh, this is making me so hungry.
I know, just thinking of all of the delicious
gorgeous pairings. And the deeper you dig into it, like the more interesting and intricate your pairings can become. But I think those basic tenets are such a great starting point for people who are kind of new and maybe want to serve something that'll support their dish if they're having a dinner party. They want to serve a wine that'll actually enhance the flavors. And
Absolutely.
Okay, well, on that subject, what are your most memorable food and wine pairing experiences for good and bad reasons? So what was the wine and what was the food?
Yes. Okay. So I'll start with the bad one. Well, two of my favorite things in the whole world is like dark chocolate and then a full body Bordeaux or
Wow.
Napa Cabernet. And I've tried over and over to like enjoy them together, but it just does not work because they're both bitter and they both have tannins, believe it or not. So they really just don't pair well together. So instead you have to go for like a milk chocolate and like maybe a, sweeter red. So unfortunately now I just have to enjoy them separately, but it's okay. My favorite wine pairing experiences though, they've always been places where the food and the wine is local. They say that you should pair wines with food from the same places, and it's definitely for a good reason. So some of my favorite examples are from when I lived in Italy in the Tuscany region. Just, of course, amazing food and wine in general, but their Chianti and their Sangiovese paired with their pasta and pizza. It just goes so well together because Sangiovese has, those red fruits, but it also has like tomato leaf and oregano and some of those Italian herbs in there that are also found in their food. So it's just like the perfect pairing.
Man, that sounds amazing. All right, so last question. Tell me one thing you love and one thing you dislike about working in the wine industry.
Yeah, I think one thing that I dislike about the wine industry is kind of what we talked about before, the snobbiness and the kind of exclusivity. So it's primarily dominated by men and not super diverse. However, it's definitely taking strides every day to become more inclusive and more diverse, which I think is really great. And I know there's a lot of others out there like me that just want wine to be fun and approachable, and you don't want to have to feel like embarrassed or like you don't belong. So that's kind of my whole goal, is to just like make it for everybody, and you don't have to be a wine enthusiast or a wine expert to enjoy wine.
Absolutely. You don't have to know the first thing about wine to enjoy a glass.
Yeah.
But if you are interested, I feel like we've created a ton of value for those people who want to take their knowledge further. So, well, thank you so much for speaking to me today. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Well, there you have it. I hope this video enriches your next wine tasting experience. But for more great advice, or even to arrange a virtual or in-person tasting with Carolyn, go to theamericanwinegirl.com. I also really encourage you to check out Brainscape's Wine Academy, where you'll discover a library of super helpful wine guides for people of all experience levels. And if you're interested in taking your wine knowledge to professional heights with a WSET or CMS qualification, get the Brainscape web and mobile app in your corner. Seriously, our adaptive digital flashcards will help you study so much more efficiently and help you keep up that healthy cadence of daily review that is so essential for acing these content-heavy exams. Or you can just use Brainscape to keep track of your wine adventures by making your own flashcards. Finally, don't forget to watch and like the other videos we have on the Brainscape channel. Subscribe to get notified whenever a new video drops. And that, my friends, is everything you need to rise to your challenge.